my name is Karen Fabian, and I'm the founder of Bare Bones Yoga. That's my dog, Bailey Rose. She likes to sometimes photobomb my videos. Anyway, I don't usually like to teach from what not to do, but sometimes it is helpful to show, especially from an alignment perspective, what not to do when in a yoga pose. So I'm going to show you 3 things that I notice a lot in my classes and give you some information about the proper way to align your body in these 3 poses. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is upward facing dog. Upward facing dog is a great hip opener, but in order to really get the maximum stretch in your hip flexors, so those are the muscles that are right here, they start in the lower back and run around the sides of the body and end on the top of the thigh. In order to get the most stretch in your hip flexors, you need to have good leverage. And in order to have good leverage, you need to have your shoulders over your wrists. So as you can see, as I come into the pose, I set up so that my shoulders, my shoulder joints, have a straight line down to my wrists. And I can kind of wiggle my feet back until I find that positioning. And from there, I can really, really press down very solidly into the tops of my feet and my hands. Now, as you come into the pose from other poses, because that's what happens in a practice, so coming into it from downward dog, and then moving forward into low push-up. And I go through this in my other video that covers moving from high to low push-up. You'll notice that coming forward in your low push-up and lowering allows you to establish that right angle, elbow over wrist, so that when you come up, you're in the right spot, or closer to it. And you can always adjust a little bit once you're there. So again, ending up with the shoulders over the wrist gives you the maximum leverage so that you begin to open up through the shoulders and the hips. Now, of course, if you find that you're not strong enough to have the arms completely straight, you can try something like Cobra, or you can have the elbows a little bit bent. But try to be working towards having the shoulders over the wrist. What you don't want to be doing is something like this. And I see this all the time. And there's actually a popular photograph used in a lot of advertisements where the woman's hands are very far forward. And this is actually a stock photo that's used in a lot of ads for studios and studio promotions. So it's kind of funny, but you want to make sure that you have that alignment. The next thing is in Warrior One, stacking the knee over the heel. So oftentimes what I'll see in class is someone whose knee goes way past the heel. And I suppose in some way you might think, well, this is giving me a deeper stretch, but it's actually not so great for the knee, and it's not as steady as having the joints stacked one over the other. So as you come into Warrior One, you'll be coming into it from most likely downward facing dog. And the problem for people often is that they don't have the strength and the flexibility to get their foot forward enough so that the knee is over the heel. And from there, you put the back heel down and come up. So oftentimes what happens is that someone's in down dog and they can only get about halfway. So they end up somewhere here and they struggle to push up, and this is where they end up. Okay? So what I would suggest, if you're experiencing this, is that you simply take as big a step as you can, and then use your hand to bring your foot where you'd like it to be, knee over ankle. And then come up onto your fingertips so you have a little bit more room to maneuver your lower body. Press the back heel down and then come up. You'll be a lot steadier, and again, this is a great stretch for your hip flexors. So knee over heel. And then the last thing is in half pigeon, done at the floor. Just like in Warrior, where the knee is in front of the hip, it is as well in half pigeon. But many times students bring the knee way outside the hip, and that's not so great for the knee either. So setting your knee up right in front of your hip gives you the best chance of keeping the hips neutral and stretching your hip flexors here. So actually all 3 of these poses I'm talking about are good hip flexor stretches. And so in half pigeon, on this side, the hip flexors on the straight leg are stretched. And then when you move to the other side, the hip flexors on this leg are stretched. And just as an aside, if you're curious about should this shin be parallel with the front of the mat, the answer is no. If you have the flexibility to do that, great, but it's not necessary. In fact, as many students focus on just that, they essentially come out of the pose, because in order to get the shin parallel to the top of the mat, their hips need to externally rotate, as you can see here. So it's more important that in order to get a good stretch in your hip flexor, that you center your body just as you would in Warrior One, and then come down from there. And as you can maneuver the foot forward, do it, but it's not essential. Remember, the knee is a hinge joint, and it likes to move this way. It doesn't like to move this way so much. So you need to be really delicate with the knee as it's off its natural range of motion line, and as you're pushing it out of that range into a deeper stretch. So I hope you found this helpful. You can check out my website, barebonesyoga.com. I invite you to join my mailing list. I'm regularly posting information about yoga and health and tips for wellness, and I would love to be able to stay in touch with you that way. My website is barebonesyoga.com. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.